Chosen one. If you are here right now, it is not because you were scrolling, and it is not because you were curious. It is because heaven timed this moment with precision. You are someone who has walked through a long season of waiting. You believed deeply, you hoped sincerely, and when the answers did not come the way you expected, you did not rebel, you went quiet. And lately, you have not been asking, when will it happen? You have been asking, am I on the wrong path? Did I miss something? And even as this video began, part of you may have wondered, why didn't I scroll past this chosen one? The reason you are still here is because this message only finds you when you are truly ready. Scripture says, there is a time and a season for every purpose under heaven, and this moment is not late, it is aligned. You are standing at the edge of a supernatural shift, a heaven-authorized elevation, a divine transfer that does not come by striving, but by timing. Stay with this message until the end, because what follows is not information, it is impartation. If your spirit feels stirred, subscribe now to stay connected to what God is releasing in this season, and comment 777 along with the city and nation you are watching from as a sign that you receive this word and commit to letting it take root. Anointed one, prepare your heart. This is your appointed moment. Chosen one, I need you to settle into this moment, because what is happening right now is not noise, and it is not coincidence. There is a reason your spirit did not rush away after the opening. There is a reason something in you leaned in instead of pulling back. You are someone who has already endured the hardest part, not the struggle itself, but the waiting that followed faith. You did not stop believing because you were weak. You stopped asking questions out loud because you grew tired of explaining your hope to people who could not see what God placed inside you. That silence was not distance from heaven, it was preparation. Chosen one. There is a season where God allows you to believe loudly, and there is a season where He teaches you how to believe quietly. You are in the second season now, and that is why this message could finally reach you. Earlier in your journey, you wanted answers immediately. You wanted clarity before commitment. You wanted reassurance before obedience. But heaven does not release certain things until the soul is steady enough to receive them without rushing, panicking, or sabotaging what is being formed. That steadiness is in you now, even if you don't fully recognize it yet. I want to speak plainly to you, not from theory, but from lived experience. There was a time in my own life when I was convinced I had missed God. I did everything I knew how to do. I prayed, I waited, I obeyed, and still nothing moved the way I expected. I remember sitting alone one night, not angry, not emotional, just empty of questions. I wasn't asking when anymore. I was asking if I had misunderstood my entire direction. That moment felt like failure, but it wasn't. It was the moment my faith stopped being loud and started being rooted, and that is where you are right now. Chosen one. Heaven does not finalize things while you are still chasing them. Heaven finalizes things when you are finally able to receive without gripping too tightly. There are doors that only open when you no longer need them to validate your worth. There are breakthroughs that only arrive when your identity is no longer dependent on the outcome. That is why what felt like delay was actually alignment. God was not withholding from you. He was refining your posture. Right now, something unseen is shifting around your life. I say that carefully because this is not hype. This is not excitement for excitement's sake. This is the kind of shift that does not announce itself with noise, but with quiet certainty. You may have noticed recently that certain desires have softened. Things that once felt urgent no longer control you. Certain people no longer have access to your emotional space. Certain outcomes no longer define your peace. That is not you giving up. That is you becoming ready. Chosen One scripture reminds us that the vision waits for an appointed time, and when it speaks, it will not lie. That does not mean the vision was absent while you were waiting. It means it was protected. Some of you had promises spoken over your life years ago that could not come to pass at that time because the weight of them would have crushed the version of you that existed back then. God does not release elevation to impress you. He releases it to entrust you, and trust requires maturity. I want you to hear this clearly. Heaven is intervening now, not because you asked louder, but because you finally became aligned. There is a difference between wanting change and being able to sustain it. There is a difference between praying for overflow and having the wisdom to steward it. I have watched people receive sudden opportunities, sudden finances, sudden elevation, only to lose them just as quickly because their inner world could not support their outer blessing. God has spared you from that pain. What you are stepping into is not fragile, it is established. Anointed One, this is the edge of a supernatural alignment. Things are being rearranged behind the scenes in ways you cannot control and do not need to. Conversations are happening without your presence. Decisions are being made without your input. Favor is being released without your effort. This is what it looks like when heaven backs a transition. You are not forcing doors anymore. Doors are responding to you. I need to say this gently but firmly. Stop interpreting the quiet as abandonment. Some of the most powerful seasons of my life looked like nothing was happening on the outside. No applause, no confirmation, no visible progress. But internally, everything was changing. My discernment sharpened, my patience deepened, my reactions slowed, and without realizing it, I was becoming someone who could carry what I had been praying for without losing myself. That is the same work happening in you. Chosen One, you are not behind, you are not late, you are not off course. You are standing at a threshold that only opens for those who have learned how to wait without hardening their hearts. The fact that you are still listening is evidence that your spirit recognizes this moment. You may not feel excited, you may not feel emotional, but there is a quiet knowing settling in you right now. That knowing is the witness. There is a kind of wealth shift that does not start in your bank account. It starts in your boundaries. It starts in your discernment. It starts in your willingness to let go of what cannot follow you forward. I have learned that when God prepares to elevate someone, He first teaches them how to walk away without bitterness, how to release without resentment, how to trust without needing proof. Those lessons are expensive, and you have paid for them. Anointed One, Heaven is not asking you to do more in this season. It is asking you to stay present, to stay open, to stay surrendered. The next phase of your life will not require striving, but it will require trust. Trust that what is being finalized does not need your interference. Trust that what is being aligned will arrive with clarity, not confusion. Trust that when the moment comes, you will recognize it, not because of urgency, but because of peace. I want you to sit with this truth before we go any further. Readiness is not about confidence. It is about stability, and you are more stable than you realize. You are no longer chasing signs. You are no longer bargaining with God. You are no longer trying to prove your worth through endurance. You are simply available, and availability is powerful. Chosen One, take a breath. Let your shoulders relax. You do not need to rush this message. You do not need to analyze every word. What is meant for you will settle without effort. What is not will fall away. Heaven knows exactly where you are, and it knows exactly when to speak. And the fact that you are here now tells me something important. The season of preparation has done its work. Chosen One, There is something I need you to understand about the season you just came through, because if you misinterpret it, you will misjudge yourself. The waiting you endured was not passive. It was not empty time. It was not God ignoring you. It was a deliberate stretching of your inner life so that what is coming would not collapse you. Most people never reach this stage because they quit when the silence becomes uncomfortable. You didn't quit. You adapted. You learned how to breathe without reassurance. You learned how to stand without applause, and that alone tells me you are not who you used to be. There was a version of you that needed constant confirmation, a version of you that would panic if things didn't move quickly, a version of you that interpreted delay as rejection. That version could not carry what heaven is preparing now, not because you were flawed, but because timing matters in the spirit. Scripture teaches that God makes everything beautiful in its time, not early, not rushed, in its time. And the reason this message only finds you now is because earlier you would have tried to force the outcome instead of trusting the process. Chosen one. I want to speak honestly about something many people are afraid to admit. There were moments when you were ready to give up, not because you lacked faith, but because you were exhausted from hoping. Hope can be heavy when it stretches too long without visible reward. You didn't walk away from God. You didn't rebel. You didn't harden your heart. You simply went quiet. And that quiet season was not a failure. It was a transition from emotional faith to anchored faith. I remember a season in my own life when I stopped talking about what I believed for, not because I no longer believed, but because explaining it to others started to drain me. Every question felt like pressure. Every suggestion felt like doubt, disguised as concern. And eventually I realized God was teaching me how to carry promises privately. Some promises are too fragile to be spoken aloud while they are still forming. You lived that lesson, and now heaven can trust you with more. Chosen one. There is a reason you are no longer impressed by noise. You have seen enough cycles repeat to know that excitement without alignment leads to disappointment. You have watched people rush ahead of their character and pay for it later. You have seen success arrive before maturity and destroy what it touched. That awareness did not come from reading books or listening to sermons. It came from lived experience, from disappointment that refined you instead of breaking you. This is why heaven waited, not to test your patience but to stabilize your spirit. There are levels of elevation that require restraint, levels of influence that demand humility, levels of wealth that require discernment more than desire. You are no longer asking for things simply because you want them. You are asking because you understand responsibility now. That shift is subtle, but it is everything. Chosen one. Let me tell you something important. The reason you felt disconnected at times was not because God pulled away. It was because your old motivations were dying. When you no longer want blessings to prove something, the soul goes through a quiet grief. You grieve the old version of yourself that thought success would heal insecurity. You grieve the idea that arrival would fix everything, that grief is holy. It clears space for something real. Scripture speaks of pruning not as punishment, but as preparation for greater fruit. Pruning always feels like loss before it feels like growth. You lost certain expectations, you lost certain relationships, you lost certain timelines you thought were fixed. But what you gained was clarity. You gained boundaries. You gained peace that does not collapse when things are uncertain. That peace is the signal that you are ready. Chosen one. There are people who received opportunities before they were ready and spent years recovering from the damage. God did not do that to you. He protected you. What felt like stagnation was insulation. What felt like being overlooked was being covered. Heaven does not rush what carries weight, and you carry weight now. You may not see it yet, but you move differently. You react differently. You no longer feel the need to announce your intentions. You no longer chase validation from people who do not understand your calling. You have become selective with your energy, your words, your expectations. That is not withdrawal. That is wisdom forming. I want you to consider this carefully. Earlier in your life, if the door had opened suddenly, you would have said yes to everything. You would have overextended yourself. You would have ignored your intuition to avoid missing out. But now you pause, you listen, you sense alignment before agreement. That shift alone tells me heaven is right on time. Chosen one. Readiness is not excitement. Readiness is discernment. It is knowing when to move and when to stay still. It is trusting that what is meant for you will not require you to betray yourself to receive it. I have learned that the truest blessings arrive with peace, not pressure. They do not rush you. They do not threaten you with loss if you hesitate. They feel settled even when they stretch you. That is the kind of alignment forming around you now. Not chaotic change, but ordered transition. Not frantic movement, but purposeful shift. Heaven is not asking you to do anything dramatic in this moment. It is asking you to remain grounded, to stay aware, to stop doubting the work that has already been done in you. Chosen one, I need you to release the idea that you were late, you were protected, you were shaped, you were prepared in ways you could not see while you were inside the process. And now something subtle but significant is changing. You may feel it as calm, you may feel it as detachment, you may feel it as a quiet confidence that does not need to speak loudly. That is the sign. The same God who withholds until the appointed time also releases without resistance when the time arrives. Doors that once felt heavy will open without effort. Conversations that once felt strained will flow naturally. Provision will meet you where striving once failed. This is not because you finally did something right. It is because the season did its work. Chosen one. You are not standing at the edge because you fought your way here. You are here because you learned how to wait without becoming bitter, how to trust without demanding proof, and how to remain open even when hope felt costly. That kind of heart is rare, and heaven responds to it. Take another breath. Let this settle. You do not need to figure out the details yet. You do not need to plan the next move. What matters right now is recognition. Recognition that you are not who you were when the journey began. Recognition that your silence was not weakness. Recognition that your readiness was earned quietly. Stay here. Stay present. This moment is not rushing you. It is meeting you exactly where you are. Chosen one. The season of silence you walked through was not accidental, and it was not excessive. It was necessary. There are things God cannot teach you in noise, and there are truths He will not reveal while you are still surrounded by voices pulling you in different directions. The silence was not empty. It was instructional. It stripped away what was borrowed, what was inherited, and what was never truly yours to carry. In that quiet, you learned how to hear without needing constant reassurance. There were days when you felt unseen, even by heaven. Nights when you replayed conversations in your mind, wondering if you should have spoken up more, tried harder, explained yourself better. But over time, something shifted. You stopped trying to be understood by everyone. You stopped performing clarity for people who were never meant to walk with you. And in that surrender, your spirit began to strengthen. Silence taught you discernment. It taught you which voices mattered and which ones were distractions disguised as concern. Chosen one, isolation is often misunderstood. People call it loneliness, but it is not the same. Loneliness is the absence of connection. Isolation, when guided by God, is the protection of formation. You were separated not because you were difficult, but because you were different. Certain environments could not sustain what was growing in you. Certain relationships could not survive the version of you that was emerging. And rather than forcing you to fit, heaven quietly removed you. I remember a time when my own life became smaller on the outside while becoming heavier on the inside. Invitations stopped, conversations thinned. Even people who once leaned on me seemed unsure how to engage anymore. At first, I took it personally. I assumed I had done something wrong. But over time, I realized God was simplifying my world so my spirit could catch up to my calling. That same simplification happened to you. Chosen one. There are assignments that require depth, not popularity. There are mantles that demand clarity, not crowds. If God had left you in constant stimulation, you would never have learned how to sit with yourself without distraction. You would never have confronted the fears you avoided when life was busy. Silence brought those things to the surface. Old wounds, old doubts, old patterns you thought you outgrew, and instead of running from them, you faced them. That facing was costly. There were moments when it felt easier to numb yourself, to stay busy, to drown out the questions. But something in you chose honesty over avoidance. You sat with discomfort. You let it speak. And slowly you gained authority over the parts of you that once controlled your reactions. That is not something you can fake. That is earned. Chosen one. People often think preparation looks like activity, classes, plans, connections. But spiritual preparation often looks like reduction, fewer voices, fewer options, fewer explanations. You learned how to move without announcing every step. You learned how to make decisions without polling everyone around you. You learned how to trust your inner witness instead of external approval. That is maturity. There were times during this season when you wondered if you were being forgotten. You watched others move ahead. You saw progress in places you expected for yourself. And while you were genuinely happy for them, a quiet question lingered. Why not me? That question did not come from jealousy. It came from confusion. And instead of answering immediately, God let the question refine you. He let it expose where your identity was still tied to outcomes instead of obedience. Over time, that question lost its urgency. Not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped comparing. You began to understand that different callings require different timelines, that some growth happens underground before anything appears above the surface, that roots must deepen before branches can expand. That understanding did not come overnight. It came through patience that was forged, not chosen. Chosen one silence also revealed who you truly were without affirmation. When no one was clapping, when no one was watching, when no one was asking for your input or recognizing your effort, you discovered whether your faith was conditional or committed. And the fact that you remained soft even when life felt unfair tells me everything I need to know about your readiness. I want to be clear about something. Silence does not mean you did nothing. You lived, you worked, you showed up, you handled responsibilities. You survived ordinary days while carrying extraordinary questions. That is not weakness. That is endurance. And endurance builds a kind of strength that excitement never will. Chosen one. During this season, your prayers likely changed. They became simpler, less dramatic, more honest. You stopped rehearsing words and started speaking from the core. Sometimes you didn't even ask for outcomes. You asked for peace. You asked for clarity. You asked to not lose yourself in the waiting. Those prayers were heard, and they were answered in ways you couldn't measure at the time. Scripture speaks of those who wait on the Lord renewing their strength. That renewal does not always look like energy. Sometimes it looks like restraint, like patience, like the ability to pause instead of react. You developed that ability, and it is one of the clearest signs that something significant is approaching. Chosen one. There is a reason you no longer feel the urge to explain your journey, a reason you don't feel compelled to justify your pace, a reason you don't need everyone to understand your decisions. That confidence did not come from success. It came from survival with integrity. You know what it cost you to get here. You know what you refused to compromise, and that knowing has settled you. The silence also taught you to recognize divine timing. You learned that forcing things early creates problems later, that some doors are dangerous when opened prematurely, that some blessings become burdens if received without preparation. You watched that happen to others. You learned from their experiences without having to repeat their mistakes. That wisdom is part of your inheritance. Chosen one. You are not meant to live isolated forever. This season was not permanent. It was purposeful, and now the very stillness that once felt heavy has become a foundation. You can feel it. There is less anxiety in you, less desperation, less need to rush. You trust that when movement comes, it will be clear. That clarity is the reward of silence. Not answers shouted from the heavens, but quiet alignment in your spirit. You are no longer guessing, you are sensing. And sensing is more reliable than guessing ever was. Take a moment and acknowledge what you survived without becoming hardened. Acknowledge the growth you didn't celebrate because no one else saw it. Acknowledge the faith you carried quietly when it would have been easier to quit. That acknowledgement is not pride, it is truth. Chosen. One silence did not shrink you, it refined you. It taught you how to listen, how to wait, how to remain open without becoming fragile. And because of that, you are no longer afraid of stillness. You are comfortable there. And that comfort tells me you are ready for movement that will not overwhelm you. Stay grounded in this awareness. The years of silent preparation were not wasted. They were invested, and investments mature at the appointed time, not before. Chosen one. There is a quiet knowing that has been living inside you for a long time, and no matter how much you tried to ignore it, it never left. Even in seasons when you doubted yourself, even when you questioned your direction, even when you wondered if you had misunderstood God entirely, that inner witness stayed. It did not shout, it did not argue, it simply remained. That is how truth behaves. It does not compete for attention. It waits until you are calm enough to hear it. You may not have trusted that knowing at first. You tried to reason your way around it. You looked for external confirmation. You asked people you respected for their opinions, and while some advice helped, much of it left you feeling more confused. That confusion was not because you lacked wisdom, it was because what you were carrying could not be validated by consensus. Some assignments are confirmed internally long before they are ever recognized externally. Chosen one. This is where many people disconnect from themselves. They abandon what they sense because it does not make sense to others. You didn't do that. You questioned, yes. You wrestled, yes. But you did not betray that inner witness. Even when you tried to move on, it pulled you back. Even when you told yourself to let go, it remained present. That persistence was not stubbornness. It was alignment. I want to speak from my own journey here because this part matters deeply. There was a time when I tried to silence what I knew because it was inconvenient. It did not fit the timeline I wanted. It did not align with the expectations around me. And for a while I succeeded in distracting myself. But the more I ignored it, the heavier everything felt. Life became loud, but not fulfilling. Busy, but not peaceful. It wasn't until I stopped running from what I knew that things began to settle. That same dynamic has been at work in you. Chosen one. The inner witness does not bring instant clarity. It brings direction. It does not explain everything. It anchors you so you don't drift. When you finally stopped demanding immediate answers and allowed yourself to simply stay present, something shifted. You became less reactive, less desperate, less afraid of uncertainty. That is not resignation. That is trust forming. There is a reason you stayed with this message. Not because every word is new, but because something in you recognizes the frequency. This is not about agreement. It is about resonance. You are not listening to be convinced. You are listening because it confirms what has already been forming quietly within you. That is the difference between curiosity and recognition. Chosen one. Many people chase signs because they do not trust their inner life. They need constant proof because they have not learned how to listen. You have learned how to listen. You may not feel confident all the time, but you are grounded. You sense when something is off, even if you cannot explain why. You feel peace around certain decisions without knowing how they will unfold. That is discernment, not imagination. I need to say this clearly: you are not behind because you did not move when others moved. You are ahead because you waited until alignment replaced pressure. There were opportunities you could have taken that would have looked impressive on the surface. But something in you hesitated, not fear, not laziness, wisdom. And even when you second-guessed those decisions later, deep down, you knew you were spared something you didn't yet understand. Chosen one. The inner witness often feels like restraint. It says not yet when your emotions say now. It says walk away when your ego says prove yourself. It says wait when your anxiety says act. That restraint is not limitation, it is protection. I have learned that the most painful lessons in life come not from missed opportunities, but from ignoring inner warnings. You listened, even when it cost you. This is why your faith looks different now. It is quieter, but stronger. You do not need to announce what you believe. You live from it. You do not need to argue your position. You embody it. That shift did not happen by accident. It happened because you honored the inner witness even when it isolated you. Chosen one. There were moments when you felt like no one was speaking to you. Sermons didn't land the same. Conversations felt shallow. Advice felt repetitive. That wasn't arrogance, it was growth. You outgrew certain levels of language because your spirit was ready for something deeper. You needed substance, not slogans, truth, not noise, and that hunger led you here. I want you to notice how your body feels right now as you listen, not your thoughts, but your body. There is likely a sense of stillness, a lack of urgency, a calm attention. That is your nervous system responding to alignment. When something is true for you, your body does not brace, it settles. That is happening now. Chosen one, the inner witness is not dramatic. It does not demand obedience, it invites trust, and trust grows when you stop fighting yourself. You spent years trying to override your intuition to make things work faster, to make things easier, to make things acceptable to others, and each time it cost you peace. You learned from that. Now you pause before agreeing, you listen before committing, you sense before deciding. That is readiness. There is also something else the inner witness has been doing quietly. It has been teaching you how to let go without resentment, how to release people without bitterness, how to accept endings without seeing them as failures. Those lessons are crucial for the level you are approaching. Elevation without emotional closure creates instability. God has not skipped that step with you. Chosen one. Some of the most powerful confirmations you received were not words, but relief. Relief when something didn't work out. Relief when a door closed. Relief when a relationship ended. At the time, you may have felt confused by that relief. Shouldn't loss feel painful? Sometimes, yes. But when something is misaligned, its ending brings peace, even if it brings sadness. That peace is guidance. You are learning how to follow peace instead of pressure. That is not something you can teach. It must be experienced. And you have experienced it enough now to trust it. That trust is part of why heaven can speak more clearly to you in this season. Chosen one, you are no longer looking for permission. You are listening for alignment. You are no longer waiting for everyone to agree. You are waiting for your spirit to settle. That internal shift changes everything. It means when movement comes, you will not rush blindly. You will move deliberately. Stay with that awareness. Do not rush past it. The inner witness has carried you through confusion, disappointment, and silence. It has not failed you yet, and it is not failing you now. It is simply preparing you to recognize what is real when it arrives. You are not imagining this. You are not projecting hope onto emptiness. You are responding to something that has been growing inside you for a long time. The fact that you can sit with this message without anxiety, without urgency, without needing immediate answers is the clearest sign of readiness. Let that truth settle. You do not need to prove anything in this moment. You do not need to decide anything right now. Recognition is enough. Alignment is enough. And the inner witness that guided you here will continue to guide you forward, one settled step at a time. Chosen one. There is a closing happening in your life that is more final than you realize, and that is why this season feels different from all the others. Before things faded slowly, people drifted in and out. Opportunities came and went. Nothing ever fully ended, which kept you emotionally tied to chapters that should have closed long ago. But now something deeper is happening. What is ending is not just a situation, it is a version of you. And that kind of ending carries weight. You may have noticed that you no longer feel the same pull toward what once defined you. Old patterns do not have the same grip. Certain conversations feel hollow. Certain environments feel heavy instead of familiar. This is not boredom. This is completion. When God finishes a chapter, He does not always announce it with drama. Often He removes the desire to return. That is what you are experiencing now. Chosen one endings are difficult, not because they are wrong, but because they require acceptance. There are things you fought for that you now see clearly were never meant to last. There are people you loved deeply who could not grow with you. There are dreams you once chased that no longer feel aligned. A younger version of you would have interpreted this as failure, but you are no longer that version. You understand now that not everything that ends was a mistake. Some things end because they succeeded in shaping you. I want to speak from experience here because this is where many people resist God without realizing it. I remember holding on to seasons that had already expired simply because letting go felt like admitting defeat. I kept trying to revive what God had quietly closed, and every attempt drained me. It wasn't until I stopped fighting the ending that peace returned. The moment I accepted that something was over, clarity followed. That is the same clarity waiting for you. Chosen one. There are doors in your life that are not just closing, they are sealing. That means they are not meant to be reopened later. And that can feel unsettling, especially if those doors once represented safety, identity, or familiarity. But sealed doors are not punishment, they are protection. God seals doors when reopening them would delay your future. You may feel grief rising unexpectedly. Not because something tragic happened, but because something meaningful is finishing. Grief does not always come from loss. Sometimes it comes from release. You are releasing the effort to make things work that were never meant to be carried forward. You are releasing the hope that certain people would change. You are releasing the need to explain your journey to those who could never understand it. That release is holy. Chosen one. There is a maturity in you now that allows you to feel both sadness and peace at the same time. That is not confusion. That is integration. You can honor what was without needing it to continue. You can appreciate what served you without trying to resurrect it. That ability is crucial for what comes next. I want you to notice how different this ending feels compared to previous ones. There is no panic, no desperation to fix things, no urge to chase closure through confrontation. Instead, there is a quiet knowing that this chapter has given all it can give. That knowing is the sign of finalization. Scripture teaches that there is a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to keep and a time to let go. You are in the letting go, but not as someone being stripped, as someone being freed. Freedom does not always feel like joy at first. Sometimes it feels like space where noise used to be, space where familiar struggles once lived. Space can feel uncomfortable when you are not used to it, but space is necessary for new things to enter. Chosen one. Some of the people who cannot follow you into the next season are not evil or malicious. They are simply not built for the altitude you are approaching. That does not make them wrong. It makes them incompatible. You no longer need to justify this truth. You no longer need to soften it to protect feelings. Respecting your future requires honoring this separation. There are also beliefs that are ending. Beliefs about what you deserve. Beliefs about how hard things must be. Beliefs about how long it should take. You are shedding a mindset that equated struggle with worthiness. You are releasing the idea that suffering is proof of calling. While struggle shaped you, it is not meant to define you forever. Chosen one. As these endings finalize, there may be moments where you feel strangely untethered, not lost, but between. That in-between space can be unsettling if you rush to fill it. Do not rush. Do not replace what ended just to feel busy again. Let the space breathe. Let it teach you what peace feels like without conflict. That peace will become your new baseline. I need to say something important here. The enemy often tries to reintroduce old patterns right before a major transition, not because they still have power, but because familiarity can feel comforting when the future is unknown. You may feel tempted to revisit old conversations, old habits, old compromises. Recognize that temptation for what it is, resistance to finalization. Do not confuse nostalgia with calling. Chosen one. What God is closing now is closing cleanly. There is no hidden obligation, no unfinished business you need to chase, no loose ends that require your energy. The clarity you feel is intentional. Trust it. Do not second-guess it. You have grown into someone who can walk away without needing the last word. Someone who can let silence speak for itself. Someone who understands that not everything requires explanation. That growth did not happen by accident. It was cultivated through years of restraint, reflection, and obedience. As these endings seal, you may feel lighter, but also exposed. Without old structures, you are more aware of yourself. That awareness is not vulnerability, it is readiness. You are no longer hiding behind roles that kept you busy, but unfulfilled. You are standing as yourself. Chosen one. I want you to release the urge to label this season as loss. What is ending served its purpose. It brought you to this threshold, but it cannot cross it with you, and that is okay. The fact that you can acknowledge this without collapsing emotionally tells me something important. You are no longer driven by fear of emptiness. You trust that what is meant for you will arrive in its own time. That trust is the fruit of everything you endured. Let the endings finish. Do not interrupt them. Do not delay them. Do not romanticize what God is removing. Honor the process by staying present and grounded. What is finalizing now is making room. Not abstract room, real room in your life, your mind, your schedule, your heart. That room will not remain empty, but it must remain open. Chosen one, you do not need to grieve what is leaving as if it was taken from you. It is being released from you, and that release is the signal that you are no longer defined by your past chapters. Stay with this moment. Let the finality do its work. You are not being emptied. You are being prepared. Chosen one. The reason you are ready now has very little to do with strength and almost everything to do with restraint. You have reached a place where you no longer feel the need to rush ahead of God to prove that you are worthy. Earlier in your journey, you would have mistaken movement for progress. You would have said yes too quickly, trusted too easily, and overextended yourself to avoid missing an opportunity. That version of you no longer exists. And that is why heaven can trust you with what is coming. There is a dangerous myth that says readiness looks like confidence, boldness, or certainty. But spiritual readiness often looks quiet. It looks like discernment. It looks like the ability to pause without fear. You have learned how to sit with unanswered questions without spiraling. You have learned how to wait without resenting those who move faster. That stability is rare, and it is the very thing that protects what is about to enter your life. Chosen one, I want to speak honestly about something I learned the hard way. There were seasons when I thought I was ready simply because I was eager. I felt prepared because I had prayed, planned, and imagined the outcome. But when opportunities arrived, I realized how much of my motivation was still driven by fear of lack. Fear of being overlooked, fear of falling behind. Those fears shaped my decisions in ways I could not see at the time. God delayed certain things not to frustrate me, but to free me from those fears. You have been freed in the same way. Now when something presents itself, you do not feel panic. You do not feel pressure to act immediately. You do not feel the urge to explain yourself to be chosen. That shift alone tells me you are no longer operating from survival. You are operating from alignment, and alignment changes the way blessings land. Chosen one, heaven is not releasing what is coming to test your endurance. It is releasing it because your nervous system is steady enough to receive without chaos. You are no longer trying to outrun uncertainty. You are able to walk through it without losing yourself. That internal regulation matters more than you realize. Many people collapse under blessings not because the blessing was wrong, but because their inner world was unprepared. You have also learned something else that marks readiness. You have learned how to say no without guilt, not loudly, not defensively, simply clearly. You no longer negotiate your boundaries to be accepted. You no longer compromise your peace to maintain access. That clarity did not come from confidence training or self-help language. It came from consequences. It came from lessons that taught you the cost of overextending yourself. Chosen one, earlier in your life you might have believed that if something was from God, it would arrive with urgency. That if you hesitated, you would miss it. But now you know better. What is meant for you will not pressure you. It will meet you in peace. It will align with your values, not challenge them. It will stretch you, yes, but it will not destabilize you. That understanding changes everything. There is a humility in you now that was not there before, not the kind that shrinks, but the kind that listens. You are no longer trying to impress God with effort. You trust Him enough to let Him lead. That trust is not passive, it is grounded, it is active surrender, and it creates space for divine timing to unfold without interference. Chosen one readiness also means you no longer romanticize struggle. You no longer believe that suffering is required to validate your calling. You respect the lessons pain taught you, but you are not attached to it. You are willing to receive good without suspicion. That willingness matters. Many people unconsciously reject blessings because struggle became familiar. You have broken that cycle. I want you to notice how your desires have matured. You no longer want success at any cost. You want sustainability. You no longer want attention without integrity. You want impact. You no longer want increase if it requires you to abandon your inner life. That discernment is the fruit of everything you endured, and it is the reason what is coming will not overwhelm you. Chosen one heaven prepares people in stages because responsibility increases with elevation. Influence expands, visibility grows, and without internal stability, those things become burdens. You have been stabilized, not by isolation alone, but by self-awareness. You know your limits now. You know your triggers. You know when to rest and when to move. That knowledge is protection. There is also something important about the way you view others now. You are less reactive, less judgmental, less defensive. You do not need to compete for space. You do not need to compare timelines. You are secure in your own lane. That security allows you to bless others without feeling diminished, and that posture invites favor. Chosen one. The readiness you carry now means you will not sabotage what arrives through impatience. You will not rush the process. You will not force outcomes. You will allow things to unfold organically, trusting that clarity will come with each step. That patience is not passive, it is wise. I have seen people lose what they prayed for because they tried to control it once it arrived. They feared losing it, so they clung too tightly. They feared scarcity, so they overmanaged. They feared being overlooked again, so they overperformed. That fear created exhaustion. You are no longer living from that place. You trust that what is given can be sustained. Chosen one. There is a difference between readiness and readiness anxiety. Readiness anxiety is when you feel pressure to prove you can handle what you asked for. True readiness is when you trust that God would not place you in a situation you could not navigate. You are operating from trust now, not fear. I want you to hear this carefully. You are ready not because you have everything figured out, but because you know how to stay grounded when you don't. You are ready because you know how to ask for help without shame. You are ready because you know how to listen before acting. You are ready because you know how to walk away when something does not align, even if it looks promising. Chosen one. This readiness changes the way wealth, opportunity, and influence interact with your life. They will not control you. They will serve the assignment placed within you. You are no longer chasing elevation. Elevation is responding to who you have become. As you sit with this truth, let go of any lingering doubt that you might ruin what is coming. That fear belongs to an older version of you, the version that learned through trial and error, the version that had to make mistakes to grow. You have grown. You have integrated those lessons. You do not need to relive them. You are steady now, not perfect, not fearless, but steady. And steadiness is the foundation of lasting increase. Remain in this awareness. You do not need to prepare more. You do not need to prove more. You do not need to strive more. What has been required of you internally has already been completed. Chosen one. This is why the timing feels different, not urgent, not delayed, just right. Chosen one. As this moment draws to a close, I want you to rest in what has already been set in motion. This was not just a message you listened to, it was a divine alignment you stepped into. Heaven has already marked this moment as your Kairos time, your appointed season, the exact intersection where preparation meets release. What has been delayed is not denied. What has been hidden is not forgotten. A supernatural transfer is already unfolding quietly and precisely according to the wisdom of God. Anointed One, I declare peace over your spirit, clarity over your path, and strength over your heart. May you walk forward without fear, without striving, and without doubt. Stay faithful in the stillness. Stay aligned with the flow of the anointing. Give thanks in advance for what is already forming beyond your sight, knowing that what God releases now will be sustained, protected, and established. I bless you to recognize the doors as they open, to receive without hesitation, and to steward what comes with humility and gratitude. If this word resonated in your spirit, you may quietly seal it by staying connected. Subscribe if you feel led, and share where you are watching from so we can stand together in agreement. Chosen One, go forward with confidence. This season has found you because you are ready.